Welcome to the City County Council meeting for Tuesday, July 22nd, 2025. By your presence in the City Council chambers, you are participating in this process of representative government. Later on, and we will have a time for public input with a 3-minute limit. Would you join me for the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, before we start, we would just like to reach out to Council President Sparks and her family. Tell them how sorry we are for their loss, and our prayers and thoughts are with them. And hopefully everything will be fine. So roll call, we have Council President Sparks, Council Member Banks.
Here.
Council Vice President Wilkie.
Yep.
Council Member McKay.
Here.
Council Member Closey.
Here.
Quick draw. Council Member Wheeler.
Here.
Council Member Mize.
Here.
Council Member Canopy.
Here.
Thank you. Approval of the minutes of July 8th, 2025.
Second.
Motion's made by Vice President Wilkie, seconded by Council Member Mize. Do we have any public comment? Any council discussion? All in favor, say aye. Those opposed? Passes 7-0. You have the correspondence of Beartooth RC&D and the Fire Monthly Report of June 30th. Council disclosure of ex parte. Next, we'll move into public hearing. We have an ordinance amending chapter 12.28 Park Rules and Regulations and repealing chapter 12.32 Trees and Boulevards of the Laurel Municipal Code. This time and place is set for public hearing on the City of Laurel's ordinance amending chapter 12.28 Park Rules and Regulations and repealing chapter 12.32 Trees and Boulevards of the Laurel Municipal Code. I'm opening this public hearing and would first ask staff to present this item prior to public hearing.
Good evening, Mayor, council members, and members of the public. Tonight is the public hearing for the combining of two boards, the Park Board and the Tree Board. Essentially, we're taking the Tree Board ordinance and we're moving it into the Park Board ordinance and then eliminating the Tree Board one. It's been discussed with the Park Board, meeting with the city attorney on how to write the code to combine these boards. It has been through the review of that committee of the Park Board. We have consent of the Tree Board committee, the members that are left on that committee, I should say. And it's all in favor that the city council should be in favor of moving this forward and changing the ordinance, allowing for one board to be called the Park and Tree Board, and then allowing that to take place in a 30-day time limit after the council approves that. So that is what the public hearing is for, and I guess that's it.
Thank you, sir. I'll open the floor for public comment. Copies of the rules governing the public hearing have been posted in the council chambers. Are there any proponents? Are there any proponents? Are there any proponents supporting the item? Are there any opponents? Are there any opponents? Are there any opponents not supporting the item? Since there is no public comment and there are no questions, I don't need to ask staff to respond to any of them. I will now close the public hearing. Consent agenda or items? We have none?
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve the consent agenda for July 22nd, 2025.
Maybe, hey, Shane, my green truck's out there. The windows are down. The keys in the cup holder. Would you please? Thank you. Yeah, probably. Okay, where were we? Councilman Closey made the motion, seconded by Vice President Wilkie. Public comment? Council discussion?
Yeah, I would just sit there. bouncing.
All in favor, say aye. Those opposed, passes 7-0. Nothing on the ceremony. He's a fireman. He's used to getting wet. Nothing on the ceremonial calendar. We have a long list of reports of boards and commissions. I won't read them all there. They're there and they're in your packet. We now move to audience participation with a 3-minute limit. Do we have anybody who would like to speak? Check. Okay, moving on, we have in scheduled matters, we have the appointment of David Goslow, father-in-law of Kelly Goslow, to the Cemetery Commission for a 2-year term ending June 30th, 2027.
Mr. Mayor, I would like to approve the mayor's appointment of David Goslow to the Cemetery Commission for a 2-year term ending June 30th, 2027.
A motion made by Councilmember Canopy. Irv, did you get that? Or was that? Okay. Seconded by Vice President Wilkie. Any public comment? Council discussion? All in favor, say aye. Those opposed? Passes 7-0. Next, we have our ordinance number R 25-01, an ordinance amending chapters 12.28 Parks Rules and Regulations and repealing chapter 12.32 Trees and Boulevards of the Laurel Municipal Code.
Mr. Mayor, I would move to adopt ordinance number 025-01.
Motion made by Councilmember Mize, seconded by Councilmember Canopy. Any public comment? Any council discussion? Council, yeah, I keep wanting to call her name and she's not here. Councilmember Banks,
Yes.
Council Vice President Wilkie, Councilmember McKay,
Yes.
Councilmember Closey,
Yes.
Councilmember Wheeler,
Aye.
Councilmember Mize,
Yes.
Councilmember Canopy.
Yes.
Passes 7-0. Resolution R 25-50, a resolution of the City Council authorizing the mayor to apply for a loan on behalf of the city of Laurel for payments toward the purchase of a fire truck.
Mr. Mayor, I would move to approve resolution number R 25-50.
Second.
Motion made by Councilmember McKay, seconded by Vice President Wilkie. Any public comment? I believe before we go to council discussion, did you want to speak?
Yes.
Clerk Treasurer Stricker.
Okay, so Kurt and I have met several times regarding this loan and the laws and everything that we have to follow to take out a debt on the general fund. And so we have wrote a memo, which I'm going to read into the record. And then we will supply each of you a copy of the memo along with the worksheet that we had to use to follow MCA. We provided this with the mayor this morning, and he has agreed to bring it forward to you. So the description of the request is that the fire department requested the purchase of a new truck in 2024. The city council authorized the purchase of that truck and awarded the bid for delivery of the new truck in 2025. The state of Montana allows political subdivisions of the state to borrow money, borrow money for purchases when they do not have the cash reserves to fund such purchases. The state set up standards on how much debt a municipality may incur to make sure the municipality does not borrow more money than they can pay back. The restrictions are put in place for financial health of the city and to provide guidance to local elected leaders. The debt limit laws are the same for every city in Montana, and this limit is entirely based on our past financial reports. If the city had the ability to pay for $1 million fire truck, this would look entirely different. Today, each city has adequate cash reserves to make the purchase, but would jeopardize the rest of the general fund. The reserve account is where the city holds its money for payroll for the police, fire, EMS, parks, finance office, cemetery, and the city shop employees. The reserve account is also drawn down every month for purchases for those departments. The reserve balance is high when we receive tax collections and then it starts to decline every month until the next infusion of tax revenue. Tax revenue comes in every month, but only twice a year do we receive most of the tax revenue. The reserve account is our checking account. The total balance today will change with the next payroll or the next purchases with the claim cycle. Removing $1 million from our checking account would put the city at risk of meeting any obligations with the employees in the general fund for their paychecks as well as the general fund expenditures. The city clerk treasurer and the CAO have investigated loans with the state of Montana and Yellowstone Bank here in Laurel to fund the purchase of the fire truck. We have worked with the state of Montana and our auditors to understand our debt limits and realize that what our maximum debt service limit is for 2025, which is $86,559. This figure is the annual payments on any combined loans. The city already has a loan for another fire truck with the debt balance in August, that will be in August of this year of $143,266.70 and an annual payment of $32,361. If you subtract the current loan payment from the max annual loan payments allowed by state law, you end up with $54,198 that can be used to take out additional debt of $558,000. If the city would take out a loan for $550,000 and add the current loan debt of $143,266.70, the general fund will be in debt of $693,266.70. The current interest rate is 5%, and both loans, the interest payments exceed $450,000 if the interest rate is locked in at 5%. The loans have and will have a variable interest rate, so the total interest payment could change. It is our recommendation that the city take out a new loan with Yellowstone Bank in the amount of $550,000 with a maximum loan payment of $54,000. Both loans have no advance payment penalties, so the city would decide in the future to pay off the loan and thus reduce the interest obligation. The rest of the obligation for the fire truck would come from the capital improvement reserve account of $427,883 and the general fund reserve account of $80,360. So to give a little explanation, do you have those, Kurt? To give a little explanation of how we came up with this money is per MCA 7-7-4104 states that an obligation may be used only if the principal amount of the obligation does not exceed 10% of the general fund of the municipality in each of the 2 immediately preceding fiscal years, which means that whatever our general fund appropriations were in 2024 and what our general fund appropriations are in 2025. We're working on 2026. So in 2024, our appropriations were 5,588,956 in the general fund. And in 2025, they were $6,185,452. We cannot exceed the debt, which we're talking about the 550,000 or 558, we can't take a loan out for more than 10% of what that is. At the time the obligation is to be incurred, the debt service in the current fiscal year on the obligation and any other outstanding obligation issued pursuant to the section do not exceed 2% of the revenue deposited in the general fund of the municipality in each of the 2 immediately preceding fiscal years. So the general fund deposits of revenue cannot exceed more than 2% to take out this loan. So that's where the $86,000 come from, because we use fiscal year 24 revenues of $4,327,941. 2% of that is $86,000. And then the general fund revenue that came in fiscal year 25 was $4,811,530, which 2% of that is $96,231. Why do you ask that we're not using the higher number? The higher number, based on the maximum principal amount that the city can legally under Montana Code 7-7-4104, is the lower of the 2 calculated limits. This means the city may not issue a general obligation debt to exceed more than $558,000, even though fiscal year 25 general fund budget would permit a higher threshold. Compliance must be met independently for both fiscal years. So if you take the 2 revenues, what's that?
Correct.
Oh. You take the revenues, so we have to use the 86,000, the 559, subtract what the brush truck that they currently already have of the 32,361. And then that gives us the $54,000. And the third thing is the term of the obligation cannot exceed 20 years. So we have our hands kind of tied a little bit on things. In the packet, we gave you guys the schedules that we received from the bank. As if we were gonna take out, when we talked to Jared over at Yellowstone Bank, we talked about possibly going to the a lower payment because right now we cannot, with these loans, we are maxed out to what our debt can be, which won't allow for any other loans. So if we need an ambulance or anything, we cannot do any of that for approximately the next 5 years. We did talk to them, if we did a $40,000 loan, the most that we would be able to take the loan for would be $14,000, and that would give us $100,000 loan is all we could take out on an ambulance. That's why we're choosing to go with a higher of the amount, $54,000 for 15 years. Is what our suggestion is. So $40,000 payment. If we went with a $40,000 payment at a 20-year note, the most we could take out would be $500,000. You could go, your principal amounts can go lower, $475,000, but on a $40,000, it only drops by 1 year. And take out, then this way, the debt to the general fund would increase versus taking the loan out for the higher amount. So right now, how we have talked, where you have to use reserves of a little over almost 81,000 versus a couple $100,000 out of the general fund for obligations reserve. So this loan at $550,000 at a $54,000 loan payment would be for 15 years. You want to add anything, Kurt?
I'd just like to add that we are just now coming to you for this loan. Our firemen who just had to leave are taking a trip, I think next week, to go down and inspect the truck. It's essentially ready to go. It's ready to be shipped. Coincidental to the clerk treasurer just receiving all the revenue that was not only forecasted, but what we actually received the last fiscal year. And in order to do that, we had to have all that revenue come in and close out June, essentially what our revenue was for the fiscal year, in order for us to be able to get the comparisons between fiscal year 25 and 24. And so it's kind of coinciding right at the right time. We got that information about a week ago. We've been acting pretty fast after that. The same day that Kelly had that information, her and I went and visited Jared over at the Yellowstone Bank. The thing about using a local bank, they are matching the intercap. So the same terms that our other fire truck is on, where we go through the state, Montana, Yellowstone Bank will match the exact terms. So it's a variable rate, just like intercap, and they will match the interest rate of intercap. So every year, every annual, we will sit there and see what intercap rate is. And if it goes down, Yellowstone Bank will allow it to go down. If the variable interest rate goes up at the state level, then we'll have an increase at that interest rate. And like I said, it's currently at 5. It was at 5.75, so it has came down historically. I think if we see some movement in the Federal Reserve market where we can get lower interest rates across the nation, that also helps the state of Montana and the citizens of Laurel to repay the loan, because we'll see a lower interest rate. If you adopt this type of policy, it also allows you to pay off the truck early, or any of the trucks early, by having, fiscal sound judgment when we make our purchases, when we allocate the resources in a budget. And it gives the leeway for the repayment of the loans faster. In the past, we've had water loans and sewer loans for the enterprise funds, and we're talking, millions of dollars in loans, $4 or $5 million loans. And some of those loans, working with the clerk treasurers over the last 20 years, we've been able to pay those off early. And it's just good, sound fiscal management, good rate structures in the water and sewer funds where we could actually pay those loans off and pay less interest over the term of the loan. So Kelly's worked really hard on this. The mayor's been involved in the deliberations over the last couple of months on how we're going to accomplish this. I think right now it's our best guess at the forecast for the future. I would like to say the state legislature convenes every 2 years. And every 2 years, they pass tax law. That's their job. We will not really have a clue what the implications will be for next year. We think that we're going to be fine. They've allowed the municipalities to maintain their current tax levels with the homestead declaration, where they're anticipating that a lot of homeowners with a primary residence will see a tax reduction. Billings and one other town are the only 2 towns that were, by charter, they could not bring their mills up to match their budget or their expenses. Laurel is not in that boat, along with a majority of the cities in Montana. So I think I feel pretty good about what the tax law that the 2025 legislature passed. 2 years, 2027 legislature will do the same thing. They will look it over, see how it went with the 2025 and the rebates that they're giving out. I think August 15th, by the way. If you didn't get your thing in the mail, if you have a primary residence, you can get a $400 rebate. And then next year, we'll see what the revenues come in at. But right now, I would really like the city council to consider holding on to your reserves, maintaining a healthy reserve, take out the loan right now, see what the next taxing year is with that homestead declaration, see what the real implications are to us, because we may need some of that reserve account to balance our budget or balance the holes in our funding that we may need for purchases that we need in the general fund. Fire, EMS, police, city clerk's office, just like tonight, fire is never really understood how much of the payroll you're gonna have. As the firemen respond to the calls, you may have 3 firemen respond, or you may have 15, and that's a fluctuating payroll. The rest of the payroll is pretty good. We can predict what the payroll will be for police. EMS, they're on a pretty good schedule right now. The shop employees, the city cemetery employees, the park employees, we have a pretty good understanding of what that payroll is every year and what an annual increase would deem for those employees. So Kelly's got a pretty good handle on that payroll part. She's been doing it, 4 years now, and we've got a pretty good handle on that. So I would like to give a shout out to Kelly for all of her hard work on doing this. It's no small task trying to figure out the finances of the city of Laurel. And then when you have it purchased, with the council authorized, how to try to get it funded. So I think she did a great job. And I think the mayor's been working with her and I very well over the last few months on making sure that we can make something very beneficial for the community. And at a certain point, this equipment that the fire department has, the ambulance or the EMS services, the police department, they need replacement equipment. It's just the facts of life. And so how we move forward in the future, I think it's a good plan right now. And we'll see next year how the tax revenue comes in. If you didn't see what Kelly had talked about, we are actually higher than 2024 tax revenue, or all revenue, I guess. And that's a good thing. So I'm not saying in the next year, we'll use the last 2 years, which would be 2025 revenue and 2026 revenue, and that works out well. We will have the capability of taking on another loan because we have different calculations. And then that sheet would be recalculated at the higher revenues. We got, subdivisions coming on. We've got another filing on Cherry Hills coming up. We've got the Love site that's going to be coming on the tax rolls. We've got another conceptual plan out there where we got some business development going to happen for Laurel. And I think we're on the cusp of seeing some really good things happening to Laurel. And I'm pretty optimistic that we're going the right way. So.
Council discussion. Councilmember Mize.
Thank you. When you said that Yellowstone Bank will match the interest rate related to the other truck, what happens when that brush truck is paid off?
They still match whatever the loan is through the intercap. So if that year, say 2027, the interest rate is at 4%, then they will match the 4%. Even if the other truck is paid for, they'll have to match what now, if the Board of Investments raises theirs to 8%, then obviously we wouldn't have a choice between the two, Yellowstone Bank or them, but they did agree to follow the terms of the state, which was very helpful.
Councilmember McKay.
Thank you. Thank you for all of this information. I'm sure this was a lot to compile and a lot of conversations. That said, this is a lot of information and a lot of numbers. Is there a reason that we're not workshopping this next week and then voting on it, as opposed to trying to cram it all in now and not allowing time for a whole lot of digging down or even public input?
So because of last week was the workshop, it's 5 weeks, so it wouldn't come until the 5th of August, right? The workshop was until the 5th of August. So we thought about putting it in on this meeting, having this discussion. The truck will be done the 29th or 30th, or something like that. July. Yep. Our only other option is if you guys would rather review it and call a special meeting later this week prior to, just have to give 48-hour notice. So from the time we're done this discussion, if you guys want to call a special meeting to be able to review it and have, later on either Thursday or Friday of this week, we can definitely do that. That is an option.
Yeah, so we discussed it because of the 3-week turnover. I mean, essentially the council would be voting 3 weeks from today. We thought about just having you guys come in for a special council meeting, have it declared that say, hey, we're gonna give you the information tonight. We're gonna let you, think about it, but the reality is that that fire truck, they want payment. They want it as soon as the truck is done, which is next week. They're going down there. I mean, our firemen are flying down there. The options for the city, if you would like to take out a lower loan, anything that you go down from now, so this resolution allows the mayor to get the loan. We'll need that for the loan closing documents. From this day forward, we still have to go over, close the loan with Yellowstone Bank, get that formalized. That could take a week. I think that we're pretty sound with them, with Yellowstone Bank. We're not going to take a lot of homework to get it done. But to get all that done, we would need to act sooner than later. And waiting 3 weeks was probably just not an option for the city at this point. Like I said, just got the information compiled last week. We started thinking about it and we got it together, I believe, on Thursday. Wednesday, I think we got most of the information on Wednesday, and then Kelly and I had to attend drug training for the bus on Thursday and Friday in Billings. So even during that meeting, me and Kelly were sitting side by side, going through the numbers with Yellowstone Bank. In fact, they got the information to us on Thursday. And in the meeting, Kelly pulled up her computer and we were sitting there working the numbers at the meeting when we're supposed to learn about finding out if our bus drivers are doing drugs. So anyway, there's a lot of information in there, but essentially we could give you 10 or 15 or 20 different scenarios on how much we pull out of reserves, how much we take out of the CIP fund. But at this point, it's our recommendation to the mayor to ask the council for you guys to just give us the authority to take out the 550 with always the option in the future, we could pay that off. We can make a payment, but we got to see how the health of that, the budgets are not yet completed for you to consider. We don't have our mill value right now to understand that. Without having the mills that are sent over by the state on what we can actually leverage for our next budget year, so we can bring that to you. That would all take time. We're talking about September before we can make a truck payment. So we've done a lot. Every council member in this room might have a different opinion on how we're going to get there. And at this point, we're asking you, make the decision. If you don't want to, if you reject the resolution tonight, we can come back again and ask you in a different scenario. We just have to change the terms. But these are the terms that we thought, best suits the city's finances right now. And always the option to pay it off earlier. And so you always have that option. But right now, we can't wait till September to make payment on that truck and ask for delivery. They're sitting on a fully furnished $1 million truck sitting there and they'd like to have that payment. So I wish we would have October, November, December to do that, but we just don't. We're out of time.
Back in June, the council voted 8-0 to buy the truck. 7-0, it passed. You then ask the staff to find the money and pay for it. That's all you said. We voted for the truck. Staff has went out of their way to find the best option for the city and keep the other departments relevant and being able to be paid for. So this is what they've come up with. A lot of hard work and numbers, working with Jared. These two working lots of hours. And the reason the time is because they explained we wanted to go on 25. If we went back a year and took the previous two, we were lower yet on our debt. So that's why we did. We moved forward. We knew we were going to have a time crunch. We're going to pay for this truck one way or the other. That company's already told us. It's either you find the money or, we've signed a contract. So I think this is a great, viable way to pay for the truck. It keeps our reserves up. We still have, it's a low enough payment that we should be able to manage that. And maybe even we've got it to where we can pay it off early with no penalties. So if as we move forward, this is what we've come up with. So any other discussion?
I would like to follow up on Councilmember Mai's comment. The other truck will be paid off in 5 years if we keep the current loan, which allows the $36,000 a year payment. So in 5 years, you could take out another loan. We're going to have anticipated revenue in 5 years. That's going to be higher, I would hope. I think we're going to move forward and grow. And so, but that also gives you, some time there to really come down to what's important in the city in the next 4 years, where we're going to go with our staff and our departments and where we're going to need that. I think working off the CIP plan that was adopted by the council, revisit that, how we're going to fund these purchases, the large purchases. It really makes us tighten the belt on that, but it also has opportunity for staff members to understand that we're kind of locked for the next 4 to 5 years. We need to look for grants. We need to look for other opportunities. We need to look for donations to help fund some of these departments that are general fund driven. And I think that's the prime opportunity for a community to sit there and then start listing what their priorities are. Not only having a CIP plan, but I'd like to have the staff in each department come up with their 5-year plan on what they see for their own department. So I've been working with the mayor and I've talked to the mayor about presenting that as an option to the council, to sit there and get really the understanding of where we're at in the fire department, where we're at in the EMS, the police department, evaluate how we're operating for the citizens of Laurel, where we want the city to go. And this opportunity is really at that point where you sit there and you can't take out any more loans. You're really then having to focus on what are the priorities for the city of Laurel. And being a CAO, newly to the job, I've been doing this same job for the water and sewer for 20 years. I've been pretty successful. I've been lucky on sometimes when we got these grants from the state and the feds, when they pass it along to the state and the state passes it along to us. We've been very fortunate. We've had partners like Vince Rickey in the state legislature that returned $1 million to us that we had to expend. And one governor's administration wouldn't give it to us, but the next governor's administration did. So Vince Rickey worked with Giaforte and we received $1 million to repay some of our money on our intake that we had to install. And that was out of our water fund, but it just allows us to get really focused on how we're going to purchase this stuff. Just like the water tower that we need. We didn't get the $1 million planning grant. Okay. Plan 2, plan B. And we move into plan B where we want to sit there and go, okay, well, we didn't get that, but we still have to move forward. We're having a reinspection of the tank. So that's a good thing. Here it's going to happen in a month or so, where we reevaluate that steel tank and see, is it really a high priority? Is it still like that as it was in 2019? And I don't know, I just think it's a great opportunity to start looking at this equipment that we have and moving forward with real solid financial responsible purchase of equipment for the citizens, essentially for the benefit of the citizens. So.
Any other comments? Councilmember Canopy.
Yeah, from the sounds of it, we are still able to do grants. And do we have a process where the fire department can go and work on grants? And are they doing that and that would be my biggest push right now. If we're going to do something, and I agree with what you're saying today, and I believe we're in a position that we don't, it's probably our best option for the city of Laurel. But those grants, if there's a way, and they should be trying to do something like that, we should have done that before we ever bought the fire truck. And that's, here nor there, it's water over the dam. But I think that we need to push on that grant money somehow. And I'm not the sharpest tool for doing stuff like that, but we can find somebody that will help, that has the capabilities of doing that. We need to do that, and it should have been done already. That's it.
Any other discussion? Okay, we'll roll call. Councilmember Banks,
Yes.
Council Vice President Wilkie,
Yes, sir.
Councilmember McKay,
Yes.
Councilmember Closey,
Yes.
Councilmember Wheeler,
Yes.
Councilmember Mize.
Yes.
Councilmember Canopy.
Yes.
Thank you. We have a new truck coming then.
Thank you, council members.
Thank you. We have no items removed, right? Community announcements, 1 minute. Council discussion? Mayor updates, we have a bid opening tomorrow for the paving work over on the south side. That's at what time?
9:30,
9:30, if anyone wants to come,
9:00.
9 o'clock, if anybody wants to come and watch a boring bid opening, but that will be tomorrow. Any unscheduled matters? Move for adjournment.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we adjourn.
The motion made by Councilmember Banks, seconded by Vice President Wilkie. We are adjourned. Oh, I didn't vote. Is everybody okay with that? Okay, 7-0.